everyone. Lovely to be able to see you virtually under the circumstances. I'm going to make some announcements, and I may take most of the 15 minutes here to make announcements. So I know that we also have a need to connect, and I'm going to allow create some space after my talk. So we might stay on the Zoom for like 11:15, 11:20 to give people time to connect after the talk. But I have a series of announcements, and I have a feeling it's going to take most of the 15 minutes. So good morning, everyone. Again, it's lovely to see you, and lovely that we have this wonderful treasure of this Sangha community to support each of us in our practice. So the first announcement I'd like to make is about the virus, and to use trusted sources to get our information. The CDC seems to be the most trusted source, and then Dr. Fausti, who is on TV a lot, seems to also be a credible source. And things are developing rapidly, changing almost day to day. So the information I got from Dr. Fausti on Friday seems to indicate that this virus, even though it can remain on surfaces, doesn't stay on surfaces for too long and tends to degrade. So its ability to transmit from a surface is not as great as was thought before. It seems that the latest information is that this basically transmits by air. So the three recommendations that are being made that we should all follow at this point is to stay in our homes as much as possible, to quarantine ourselves. And then the second recommendation is to practice social distancing, 6 feet away from each other. And the final one is to wear masks. If we did those three things, we could flatten the curve and slow this thing down enormously if everyone did that. And the reason for that, just to be clear, the way Dr. Fausti explained this is, it's, you know, we need to worry about being safe ourselves, but we also need to worry about, any one of us could be carrying the virus and not know it. So we have to be aware that we could transmit the virus to other people. So it's not only important that we practice the social distancing and wearing masks for ourselves, it's important so that we don't transmit the virus to other people unknowingly. And the way Dr. Fausti explained this is you can transmit this not only by coughing or sneezing, but by speaking. If I was speaking to you and you were in front of me right now, the air coming out of my mouth as I'm speaking, air particles go about 2 feet out and then they drop. So that's why if we all practice social distancing, we could really slow this down a lot. And then if we add to that wearing masks, we're in a much better situation. Someone's got the mic on. Zen Frankie, I'm going to, okay. The second thing I want to announce is we're still doing Housing Forward. We've collected a lot of supplies for the homeless, and we will be delivering that to Housing Forward in Maywood tomorrow. And we will continue to collect supplies. If you want to see what that list of supplies is, we have the list on our blog, on our website. We also have the list on our Facebook page, our Zen Center Facebook page. The supplies that are badly needed, they are really overstretched right now in working with the homeless population. This is a serious crisis we're facing. Maybe the most serious since the Depression, maybe even more serious. So we got to pay attention and try to help be of service to the people that are vulnerable. So that brings the next subject I'd like to announce is that we're considering making masks. And I'm going to be meeting with a lot of the members and board members from the Zen Center on Tuesday afternoon. You're welcome to come to that meeting if you want. I think we have found a way to make masks with HEPA filters that is a really good material to make a mask with. And I'm going to propose to our board that we actually turn the basement into a production, that we scale up, and that we actually, I think we can support people to sew and make masks at home, but everyone doesn't sew. So we could create a production line in the basement of the Zen Center where one person volunteers at a time and goes down there practicing sterile techniques, and we'll tell people how to do all this. And you could come over to the Zen Center and come in the back of the property, go down to the basement, and not ever have to sew. You could just put materials together that then we would give to the people that know how to use sewing machines. And we could, if we did that on a regular ongoing basis, we could scale up and make a lot of masks over time. And I think this is a time for action. We need to sit and be grounded and be kind to each other, but we're at war. This is like being at war. And I don't mean that in just the violent metaphorical sense. I mean in the sense that we need to marshal our resources as a culture, as a society to address this. So I think the best thing that we can do as a Zen Center at the moment is start making masks, all kinds of masks. Masks with cotton, high density cotton if possible. Pillowcases are great. Old bed sheets are great. There's ways to make masks with unwoven material that are a little better. And then the best way seems to be making them with HEPA vacuum bags. You might have a HEPA vacuum bag hanging around your house. So you could, and we can show you the directions in the video that explains how to do it. The other thing I want to announce, as I said, I have quite a few announcements this morning, is we are starting a matching grant fundraising campaign over the next 2 months going through the end of April. We have an anonymous donor that has agreed to match the money we raise up to $5,000. So we could potentially raise $10,000 by the end of April to just support our operating costs. So if you are able to, we invite you to please give generously to the Zen Center by our website. You can do a PayPal donation, or you can just send us a check in the mail, and it will go to good purposes. We are going to start the next foundation series on June 23rd. Christine Dussel will be teaching that on Tuesday nights, and that will probably most likely all be done online. And I have a few ground rules, and then we can open up for 5 or so minutes. When we do these Zoom meetings, what has been discovered is that this is actually quite tiring. We don't do meetings like this naturally. When we have a meeting face-to-face with people, you're not making eye contact all the time. You're making eye contact very little. But when you're in a Zoom meeting, you're making eye contact 100% of the time, being intimate with people, and it's exhausting. We're not designed to do this.
Huh?
Just to be
making eye contact 100% of the time. Whoops.
Okay, well, just let me finish, Eve. So,
Sorry, I didn't know I wasn't on mute. Point taken.
Okay, so you all understand what I'm saying. No. So the point of that is that I think the new ground rules is you can feel free to, you might feel like if you turn your video off, you're being impolite or something. Feel free to turn your video off anytime if you want to just relax and don't want to be making eye contact all the time. That's perfectly okay. And now I think I'll just open it up for, we have a program circle meeting Monday night at 7. And we're going to try to do a virtual service of the Gate of Sweet Nectar next Sunday at 9 o'clock. So we'll set up the meeting so it begins at 9 o'clock and you can join us and we'll see how it goes. Feels important to do a service at this point as best we can. So I'm going to open it up if anyone, I guess I'll call on you if I see you raise your hand just so it doesn't get too chaotic. But so if you want to say something, please just turn on your video so I can see you and raise your hand. And then Tanya?
I have just left a message on a chat or Zoom group chat. You were mentioning face masks, and I have the ability to donate some face shields if there is use for them. I can show you how they look like.
Yeah. Yes, great.
That's a printed thing with a transparency on top of it, and it goes over your head and it stays in place. So if you have anybody who would be interested in accepting these for donations, please let me know. You have my email address, and
Tanya, feel free to bring those by the Zen Center. We will find a good place for those. Those are very, very useful for healthcare providers, helps them feel safer when they're in close contact with patients. So we can put those to good use.
it is just, you know, I work at Northwestern, and Northwestern is terrified of anything that is homemade. So I am not able to donate anything there. And
It's okay.
sometimes that is an issue. So
I'm-
I'll be glad to bring some by the Zen Center.
We will be exploring all the ways to distribute things. It's true that the doctors have regulations about the kind of masks they can use, but as things,
Exactly, but people who are working at the pharmacy could.
yeah, so as things get worse, and I've talked to Melanie at our local hospital here, if they run out of materials, of masks that are regulated that they can use, then they may lower the bar and start accepting other kinds of masks. So my thought is that we scale up and prepare for the worst case scenario where the healthcare providers may not have the masks that they need and they could use some that we make. The other thing is that when we're making masks, we're freeing up, we're not ordering masks online that could be used by the healthcare providers. So the more people that make masks, the better. All kinds of masks, those head shields there are people in Oak Park that are printing the frames out for those with their 3D printers and then putting and those are very useful for in all kinds of situations. So the Zen Center will be researching all the ways we can distribute these things. There are going to be many places that can use any of these. So thank you. Anybody else have something to say before I begin the talk? All right, I don't see any hands. So thank you so much. It's lovely to be here together with you this morning. I have shared this Feeding the Demons practice several times now, once during the retreat and about a week and a half ago with some of the members. And I feel that it's something that we can do over and over again and receive enormous benefit from. If you've already done the practice, you can do it again this morning and you may have a totally different image that arises as you do it. So the metaphors we often use with illness are fighting, war, fighting and violent metaphors. We fight cancer, we fight terrorists, we struggle with our demons. And those metaphors actually are not so useful. When it comes to working, we need some kind of skill, skillful means to deal with the level of anxiety and fear that's arising in us, both personally and on a collective level. And believe, I'm sure I don't have to convince you that we are going through such a huge crisis at the moment that all of us, regardless of how much mindfulness we practice and how aware we are experiencing anxiety and fear. And so let's just be honest and humble about this, and acknowledge that we all have obstacles to work with, and this feeding the demons is a way of when we fight with what we're struggling with, we split off from it, which means we're not able to access we're not able to integrate that which we're fighting with into our psyche, into our whole self. So this is a practice for how to approach that demon or that obstacle that you're facing, and integrating it into yourself so that you can transform and transmute that what seemed like a negative energy into creative and constructive energies that would help you move forward in whatever situation you're working in, at work, with your family, whatever. So this practice comes from the Cho tradition in Tibet, which I did many years ago with one of my Tibetan teachers, Gyalpa Rinpoche. But it didn't really take for me. It was very Baroque and very traditional and complex, and there were a lot of ritual instruments that were used with it. And so Lama Tsultrim Alioni, who is a wonderful, seasoned Tibetan woman teacher, has been doing this practice all her life. And she translated the traditional practice of Cho into this feeding the demons practice so that it would be accessible to more people. And I think she's done us a tremendous service. I think this is a very powerful upaya, or skillful means, for working with whatever gets in the way, whatever obstacle you have that's coming up. And so I'm going to lead you through this this morning. And I'm going to suggest that you actually turn off your videos as we do this, so that you don't have to worry about how people are seeing you. That's not right. So that you can just be in the practice. I'm also going to ask that you set yourself up in a situation so you're sitting in one chair and you have a second chair in front of you, close enough so that when I ask you to switch chairs, you don't trip or something, because you might have your eyes closed. So set this up so that you have a chair right in front of you that you can switch to. And I think the reason why this practice is so powerful is that normally when we think of working with our negative energies, whatever you want to call that, demons, shadow, disowned energies, we use words that we might talk about working with the ego or something like that. And it's kind of abstract. It really doesn't have any meat on the bones. And so it doesn't take, because we don't get it in the body, and we don't, it's too abstract. And so this is a practice that is very concrete and very embodied, and brings forth images really from your unconscious as you go through it. So as I facilitate this, I'm limited by the amount of time we have together. I will try to go a little slower than I have when I've done this before, because I do think it takes time for these energies to emerge in your psyche, so to speak. And if at any point in this something doesn't emerge and you don't get it, just keep going through the process as best you can. If you're not able to see an image in front of you, maybe you can hear their voice, or however you get it is okay. And then when we're done, June is compiling a list of all of you that came here. I will send you the short version and the long version instructions for how to do this on your own. And then since you've gone through the facilitation with me this morning, you'll have a better idea of how to do it on your own going forward. And then you can take as much time as you need. And you can do this for any obstacle that's arising in your life. What I'm going to do this morning is ask that we focus this facilitation on the COVID-19 virus. So what I mean by that is, I want you to think of what's coming up for you around this crisis. What's your concern? What are you worried about? Are you worried about your family, your children, your cousins? Are you worried about, have you lost money in the stock market? Are you worried about getting sick yourself? Are you worried? What are you worried about? What is your fear? And pick the first thing that comes to mind. You don't have to go looking for this very far. Just pick any situation that's coming up for you right now that's alive for you. What are you most afraid of? Are you afraid of losing your job? Are you afraid of getting sick? Are you afraid of your family members getting sick? And use that situation to go through the facilitation I'm going to lead you through right now. So again, if you're coming in late, I ask that you set the situation up so that you have a chair in front of you. So I'm going to ask you to switch your chairs during this. And I'm going to start with a few preliminaries. I just want you to, and feel free to turn off your video if you want. That's perfectly all right as we go through this. You just start by opening to your breath and breathing in and breathing out and bringing awareness to your breath and how you're occupying the space where you are right now. What's this like for you? And as you breathe in, imagine that your breath is traveling to any tension you're holding in your body. And as you breathe out, just release that tension as you exhale. And now as you breathe in, notice any emotional tension that you're holding in your body. And as you breathe out, just gently see if you can't release that. And now finally, as you breathe in, notice any mental tension you may be holding. And as you breathe out, gently let it go if you can. Just let it go. Now this next preliminary is important. We need to generate the right kind of motivation to do this practice. We call it raising bodhicitta, opening your heart, and really generate a heartfelt motivation to free yourself and all beings from suffering. And it's important to shift your motivation in this way so that your attention goes from your ego and to your need to be compassionate and broadens your scope of practice from merely being selfish to an interest for a broader concern for the greater good. And that's why you're doing this practice, just for that larger motivation. So again, I want you to find the immediate situation that's coming up for you that concerns you. I'll ask you a series of questions to help you find this. And you're also, as you're finding this, I want you to find it in your body. It might just be a thought that you have right now, but I want you to actually locate it in your body. Let me ask you a series of questions so that if you're not sure what you're working on, this might help you find it. What's draining your energy right now? What's dragging you down? What's eating at you? What incident has recently disturbed you? It might be something you saw in the news. Pick one, the first thing that seems to be most immediate, and just stay with that. And see if you can't now begin to locate that somewhere in your body, most likely somewhere in your trunk, in your stomach, your chest, your heart, your shoulders, your neck. And if you're, please mute your mic. Thank you. Please don't ask questions as we're going through the facilitation. There'll be time at the end to discuss this. So as you begin to locate this sensation or felt sense in the body, I'm going to ask you, someone's mic is on. Please turn it off. Someone just joined by phone. I think your mic is on. Okay. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions about the sensation in your body to help you make it clear. What shape is it? Does it have a shape? Does this sensation have a color? Does it have texture? What is its temperature? If it were to emit a sound, what would it be? If it had a smell, what would it be? And now take the sensation and intensify it, exaggerate it, make it larger, really make it as strong and as focused as you can, and exaggerate it in your body, wherever it is. Now I want to invite you to begin to see this sensation in your body as a demon sitting in front of you, as some being sitting in the chair in front of you. And if the image that arises for you is inanimate, like a tree or a rock, see if you can't move it into being some kind of being with arms and legs and eyes and a head and eyes and a mouth. And allow yourself some time for this image to emerge, and trust whatever comes up. Don't dismiss anything as being unimportant or not significant. Whatever comes up for you is what comes up, and allow it to emerge slowly or suddenly, however it comes up for you. But try to find an image for what's in your body. Now find that image in the chair sitting in front of you. And now I'm going to ask you a series of questions about that image to help bring it into focus and clarify it. What's the size of this being sitting before you, of this demon? How big is it? How small is it? What's its size? Does it have arms and legs? And if so, what are they like? What color is it? What is the surface of its body like? What's the texture of this being? Does this demon have an age? How old is it? What is its gender? What is its emotional state? Now see if you can't notice some detail about this demon that you hadn't seen before. How do you feel looking at it? And finally, look into its eyes. Notice its eyes. What's the expression in the demon's eyes? What do you see in its eyes? It's looking at you. Now you're going to ask the demon a series of 3 questions without answering them. And it's probably useful if you say these questions out loud after I say them to you. Just speak them out loud to the demon sitting in front of you. And the first question is, what do you want from me? But don't have the demon answer that yet. You're asking the demon, what do you want from me? So this first question is sort of the surface, what the demon wants. And the second question is a deeper question of the demon. You're going to ask it, what do you need from me? And the need is different from a want. It's something deeper. So the first question you're asking the demon is, what do you want from me? And the second question is, what do you need from me? What do you need from me? And the third question is, how will you feel if you get what you need? How will you feel if you get what you need? And having asked these 3 questions, I want you to immediately now switch and sit in the chair opposite you. And in that, as you sit in that chair, you are becoming the demon yourself. You are the demon now in that chair. And just allow yourself to settle into the body of the demon as yourself. And now as a demon, look into the other chair where your normal self is sitting and see what you see. As a demon, you're looking at your normal self. And as a demon, what do you see when you're looking at your normal self? And now as a demon, you're going to answer those 3 questions. And again, it would be useful to complete this by speaking it out loud as a demon. As a demon, you're answering the question and you're saying it in this way. What I want from you is, fill in the blank. What I want from you is, and the second answer, as a demon, you're saying, what I need from you is, what I need from you is, and finally, you're answering the third question. When my need is met, I will feel, when my need is met, I will feel, it's important to get a feeling here. As a demon, what will you feel when your need is met? It's really important to get this. Now switch your chairs again and come back into your original position in the chair, in the chair where you started. Come back to that chair, and now you are your normal self sitting in that chair. Take a moment to settle into your normal self again, occupying that chair, occupying that space. And you see the demon sitting in front of you. And now your body begins to dissolve into a nectar. And the nectar your body is dissolving into has the quality of the feeling the demon would have if its need were met. So your body is dissolving into this nectar, and this nectar is the feeling that the demon would have if its need were met. And as your body dissolves into this nectar, you begin to feed this nectar to the demon. And this nectar is flowing out from your body into the demon, and see where it goes into the demon. Does it go through the demon's mouth, through its head, through all the pores of its body? How is this nectar flowing into the body of the demon? And as it does, as this nectar continues to feed the demon, it's filling the demon up with the feeling it would have when its need is met. And so the demon is being satisfied. You are feeding it what the demon wants, what it needs, the feeling that it would have when its need is met. And so the demon is slowly filling up, completely satisfied. And as the demon is satisfied and filled with this nectar, the demon itself begins to, you may notice that the demon begins to shift and change. The color may change, the size, the shape, and actually the demon may change into another being, which we'll call your ally. And allow a little time for this transformation to take place. If it doesn't happen naturally, you may, and the demon is still there and sitting in front of you, you may invite the demon to leave and in its place, have the ally show up in whatever form it shows up for you. And trust whatever comes up from your unconscious mind. Whatever comes there is your ally. Again, it's important that it be a being and not an inanimate object. And it shouldn't necessarily be somebody that you know as a particular person, but it's the quality of that feeling that the demon had when its need was met. And so what is emerging in front of you is another being that we're going to call your ally. So again, if this ally is not emerging naturally, invite one to show up. And now, as you're looking at the ally in front of you, I'm going to ask you a series of questions about it so that you can clarify this ally that's before you now. Does it have a shape, a size? What color is your ally? Does your ally have an age? Does your ally have a gender? And as you're looking at the ally in front of you, notice some detail in the ally that you hadn't seen before. And now notice the expression in the ally's eyes. The ally is looking at you. What do you see in the eyes of your ally? And now you're going to ask some questions of the ally that you're not going to answer yet, but you're just asking these questions. And the first question is you're asking the ally, how will you help me? How will you help me? And the second question is, how will you protect me? How will you protect me? What pledge or commitment will you make to me? What pledge or commitment will you make to me? How will I gain access to you? How can I see you again? How will I gain access to having you be here with me again? And now, without answering those, I want you to switch your chair again and switch into the chair opposite you. And as you switch into that chair, you are moving into the body of the ally. So now, as you're sitting in the chair that was opposite you, you are the ally, and you are looking back at your normal self. And what do you see? Notice, give yourself a moment to feel what it's like to be in the body of the ally. What's it like energetically? What's the embodied experience of being your ally? And now, as the ally, you look across to see your normal self, and what do you see? And now, as the ally, you're going to answer the questions. And again, it's useful if you speak these out loud to make it more concrete for yourself. As the ally, you're speaking to your normal self. I will help you by fill in the blank. I will help you by I will protect you by shoot. It looks like we lost the connection just very briefly, but it looks like we're back. So you're asking a series of questions of the ally. The first one is, the ally says, I will help you by. The second question is, I will protect you by, fill in the blank. And as an ally, you're now saying, I pledge, I will, I commit to. And finally, as the ally, you're answering the final question. You can gain access to me by. You can gain access to me by, fill in the blank. Now switch your position back to your normal, to the chair where your normal self is. And take a moment to feel what it's like to be in your body again, with the protection coming to you from your ally. And now you imagine that the ally is dissolving into you, and this wonderful Amrita nectar is flowing through every part of your body, filling and cleansing and purifying every part of your body, all your organs, your lungs, your stomach, your intestines, your liver, your kidneys, your heart, your limbs. Your body is completely filled with this nectar. And it's dissolving any kind of obstruction or tension, and just opening and healing everything in your body until you finally dissolve into emptiness. And rest in this state. Rest in this state of complete emptiness and openness and spaciousness. There are no boundaries, no obstructions. And just relax and enjoy this for a moment, if you can. And now slowly you can open your eyes, and before getting up or moving or doing anything, just look around the room with the energy of the ally now in you, soaked into you, completely filling you, and notice what it's like to be in the room in this way. And that will finish our facilitation. So let's just let us sit here together in silence for 2 or 3 minutes, and then we can have some discussion. And now if you want, you can turn your videos back on so we can all see each other, if you want. And if you have something you want to say, I will call, please raise your hand and I'll call on you. So you have to have your video turned on for me to see you raise your hand. So if you want to say something, make sure your video's turned on. Anybody want to say something? Robert?
I did this for the first time during the retreat, and I just wanted to say, I'm like the last person who buys into something that entails close your eyes and visualize. It's just not me. I mean, you know, visualize that you're on a beach. That's not me. But this really worked for me when I first did it, to the point where I bought the book by Alione, and I'm partway through it. It's really rooted in part in a lot of things that are accepted by modern psychology. It's not all, you know, New Agey Tibetan. It has real world application, and it's rooted in things like Jung, and I was very impressed by it. That's all.
Okay. This is a very old practice. It comes from a Tibetan teacher. I think she's in the, I don't know, 8th century. And yes, there is a book that Lama Alione wrote called Feeding Your Demons, which you can get, which would give you all these exercises and much more about how to apply this in your daily life. But I agree, I don't generally do guided meditations, and I don't feel this is New Age at all. This is very deep and a pretty profound practice for working with our shadow energies and transmuting them into something constructive. Very powerful, seems to me. Anyone else? Patricia, I saw you came in late, so you got in late on, but I recorded the session, so I can make the video recording available to any of you that want to repeat this process.
Thank you very much.
Who's on? And as I said, I can also send you the short and the long version of this facilitation if you like by email.
Good morning, Roshi.
Oh, good morning, Jackie.
Hi.
Pat.
And thank you very much again for this gift this morning. What I do overall notice is that this is the second time that I have been graced with feeding the demon as a practice. And very simply, I feel as the virus is moving in closer to my world, you know, in the real world sense.
Yeah.
This practice took me deeper into what has not been unearthed, because there was still, last week, there was a bit of a distance, and it was a sense of, you know, you better watch out. And then this week, what's transpired just in terms of the circles that are around my life and getting closer to me, as this is moving in, this practice took me deeper down.
Yes.
And where last time I was moved and I was in belief that this could work when I will really need it, I found that in this last few minutes, I'm pretty astounded by how much I needed it. And now I have something that I can sit on the cushion with.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to surprise or attack me. Now I am aligned with it from this.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's amazing. Usually the things that scare us are the things we fight against. And the scarier the demon is, the more, how can I say it? The stronger and more constructive the energy of the ally could be from that demon. So again, the idea here is to befriend the demon rather than to fight it or push it away. And then this is a structured process for allowing you to face that scary fear, anxiety, whatever it is, and then notice that it actually can transmute into something very healing and helpful. And it's in the demon already, but you wouldn't find it unless you made friends with the demon, because the demon is holding the jewel in it, and it's amazing. I think psychologically it's very sophisticated. I think also spiritually it's sophisticated. It's a way of integrating psychology and spirituality in one exercise. So I think it's an upaya that's very much needed for our time.
Yeah, it feels very much like preventative spiritual medicine right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Melanie, how are you doing over at the hospital? We're all worried about you and other doctors and healthcare providers. How's it? Tell us how you're doing.
We're doing okay. I was on the week that it kind of switched over from having a couple of people in with considering COVID illnesses to a lot of people having COVID illnesses. So you saw a shift definitely of the attitude of all the workers and everything. And then the second week, I think it got better. I think everybody came to accept that this is what we're working with and this is what we have. And I think people have calmed down and are just doing the best they can.
Well, we want to be any way that we can, the Zen Center can support you, or the other people that are on the front lines of this. Please don't hesitate to let us know what that would be.
Well, thank you just for being here
Oh,
today.
yeah, well, yeah. Zen Frankie.
Hey, peace, Baba Roshi. This was so emotionally grounding. Like yeah, the visual of it was so clear to see myself in all those ways and to receive it. And for me, I was able to sit with my demons. It made me think of one of my favorite movies, Dr. Strange. And one of the things she says is, you never get rid of your demons, you only learn to live above them. So my demon told me, I can't exist in this lower vibrational way if you're breathing, if you're remaining calm, if you're practicing all the things that you've been taught with this in practice. That's what I desire from you. And if you give me that, then you'll receive, all the things that you desire for yourself and others. If you maintain this balanced state of breath. And it was, and the demon was like, that's it. That's all. So yeah, thank you for that. It was magical. Yeah.
Okay. Great to have some magic, but not magical thinking. We could do without magical thinking right now. We need to have our feet firmly on the ground. And yeah. It's so lovely to see you all. I'm sorry we can't be together in a way that's we're used to being together, but this is how we have to be together right now. Yeah, Bruce.
Unmute. Oh, this is about the way I see everyone now, and I've been using Zoom meetings at work for months, so this is nothing new. And this is the only way I can see you right now because I'm over here in Michigan. So this is wonderful, actually. I couldn't really go through that whole practice because I was not really set up to have another chair and do all that stuff. But definitely appreciate a recording or notes or whatever you have. So, thank you.
Yeah, some of you, not everyone can visualize so easily, so some may have problems actually getting the visualization. And I just encourage you to be patient with it and set aside some time to allow yourself to do it in your own way and try to follow the steps that I send you in the facilitation, and then re-listen to this on the video. And I think if you try it a few times, it will grow on you, and you'll find that you find your way of doing it that works.
Yeah, I also have to do it in my favorite place, which just isn't it, because I'm working from home like so many people, and I'm at my computer workstation, and not exactly my favorite meditation spot. Favorite meditation spot would be on the bench behind the garage in the shade garden. So I'll try it there. Actually, I could visualize though. I'm good at visualization. So.
Right. Anything you want to share about what's going on in your life? And is anyone, I also want to always ask if we know of anyone in our community that is sick, that needs some kind of help, or that we can shop for. We have elderly people in our Sangha community that really should not be going out of their houses at all. And so I keep inviting those of you that are elderly to be okay with asking for help. It's okay. We have younger people that are ready to go shopping for you if you need it. Okay. Any, share anything? We have some time now to connect with each other.
There we go. I think people can unmute themselves and talk. One of my clubs had a meeting the other night through this, and we ended up online for 5 hours. So I've gotten actually used to doing this, and this is almost becoming a new normal for me to meet with people through the computer. Like I said, I've been doing this for months from work, so this is nothing new. And if you see the side of my head, it means I'm looking at one of the other screens here, because there's 4 screens in front of me.
Hi, Sensei.
Hi. Who's speaking?
Oh, it's Jackie. I wanted to say hello to Sensei and everybody. I didn't get a chance to say good morning. I'm so grateful everyone's healthy.
Good to see you both. I encourage you to keep your meditation practice regular. This is a time to really, I think there's 2 things going on. Things have shifted for me. I felt in the beginning it was important to be in retreat and to sit still and to listen and learn what this virus is trying to teach us. And I think if we could listen, we could learn a lot. And then now I feel that for the first time, I started watching the news on Friday, and it was overwhelming. And I also felt that the time now is to act. We really are, I hate to use the metaphor of being at war after just saying feed your demons, but I think that what I mean by being at war is we need to marshal all our resources as a culture, as a global community, to address the crisis, because it's serious. And we are all in the same boat together. And it's time to start making masks to relieve the healthcare providers so they can get the masks that they need, or to make better masks so that when they can't get masks, we can give them to them. But my gosh, the people that need masks right now, think of people that are in prisons or homeless people, you know, or any of the first responders, firemen, policemen. So I'm, again, really think we could use the Zen Center and use all our resources as a community to organize and scale up, making a large number of masks if we really organize this well. And it would give everyone a way to participate and do something constructive. Not everyone can sew with a sewing machine. And certainly people could work at home and sew masks, but you can also, if we organize the basement at the center, one person could come at a time to the back of the property and never see June or me, and go down in the basement and you wouldn't have to know how to sew. We can have it all set up so you're cutting the materials and getting them ready. And then we would give those to the people that know how to use sewing machines. And if we organize together and work like that, I think we could actually, you know, we could help. We could, and a lot of people are making masks now because it's like being on a war footing. So we all need to, I think we need to get activated in supporting each other. And one of the best things we can do right now is making masks. Everyone should be wearing them. Blair.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. My demon was my rage at those who have the power to, you know, make things better and have missed opportunities, and just how big is my rage. And that was helpful. My ally became a wolf who will keep me company and accompany me. And I think being active, having some way to contribute to bettering the world is wonderful that you're providing that, and I'd love to be a part of it.
Great, Blair. You know, the bigger your rage, the bigger your ally. The bigger the wolf that shows up. So just keep that in mind. That wolf can be a resource to you. I really, when you're watching the news and you get pissed off at all the incompetence that's taking place, and boy, is there plenty of room for rage and anger right now. You can transmute that into that wolf and that wolf. And that wolf can be of service to you and help you.
Helps the helplessness too, the feeling of helplessness.
Yeah, I think we're all feeling kind of helpless, which is why I think if we start organizing and doing something concrete like making masks, we'd feel better. We're doing something. I mean, you can't watch TV all day, you know. It's just like, come on. You'll run out of Netflix films to see after a while, so. Anyone else?
I think I'm still not muted, right?
Bruce?
Well, yeah. I mean, I can't, you know, of course I can't be there to help you make masks, and don't really have the means to. I guess what I do have is I'm still working, and I'm actually working overtime from home. So I guess I can, what I have is money, resources. So if there's, I mean, I guess there's a way to donate to the Zen Center there somewhere.
Absolutely.
To help with the resources to make the masks.
Yes, Bruce, thank you. We could certainly help use financial resources. We don't
Right.
need a lot of money at the moment. So
Right.
donate on our website through PayPal, and you can send it back to the Zen Center.
Okay, I'll do that.
You make the
That's,
check out to the Zen Life Meditation Center and our address is 46 Lake Street in Oak Park, 60302.
right. Okay. I'll use some kind of electronic means probably. That's how I do everything. You know, that's what's one thing I find myself changing and becoming even more, I don't know if it's a good thing, even more reliant on this computers and technology for everything. You know, I am longing a little bit for, you know, actual contact with a human, which, I mean, I have somebody living with me right now, but so I have one person, but that's what I miss the most.
Yeah. So one of the things that I think we're beginning to see we could do as a Zen Center is I'm starting to order, when I go on Amazon and look for the materials we need to make the mask, a lot of them are out of stock now. I can't find the unwoven material
Right.
that would make it, and even the HEPA filters from the Hoover vacuum cleaners are all unavailable. So what I'm doing is trying to be proactive about this and order, even if it won't get to us for 3 or 4 weeks, I'm going ahead and making orders of the things that I know we would need to make the mask, so that at least we can order them and we get them in 4 weeks instead of waiting a week to try to order and not being able to get it at all. So my concern right now is to try to gather the raw materials as much and scale up so that we get, if to make sure that everyone's on board, that our board of directors, we're going to meet on Tuesday. And if we're on board for really jumping in with both feet, then I think we could commit more of our financial resources to getting as much of the raw material together as we can and organizing it in the basement of the Zen Center, where we can begin to work, you know, use it to put masks together.
Yeah, I know several.
Getting the materials, people have seen the same videos we've seen about making HEPA masks, and people are ordering HEPA filters, and they're now out of stock in many of. But I found other HEPA filters through Amazon that I'm ordering. I'm not sure they're going to work yet, but I'm ordering whatever I can find that's still available.
Right. I know several quilters that are going through their fabric stash and making masks out of them.
You know, any mask is better than none, and you
Right.
can masks out if you're using cloth, cotton. The best kind of material to use is cotton that has a high thread count. So like pillowcases that are hanging around in your cupboards, or bed sheets, those are like really great candidates for making masks. And there's probably over 100 videos now on the internet about how to make masks. So you can find them. If you're not a sewer, we can again have patterns available, and we can have people go down to the basement and cut out the material in the way that it needs to, and pin it and have it all ready to be sewed, and then give it to someone that knows how to use a sewing machine. And it would take them 5 minutes to sew it. Whereas if that person was working at their home with their sewing machine and they were doing all those steps, it might take them 30 minutes to put together one mask. So we can marshal our resources as a community, and everyone can be involved, whether you know how to use a sewing machine or not. Anyone can cut. I can cut material with a scissors, but I can't use a sewing. I can use pins. And, you know. Anything else anyone wants to say before we close? Susan?
I want to say hi to Patricia O'Brien in Colorado.
Patricia, where did she go?
I think she just stepped away.
Yes, I don't see her. I think she left.
So anyway, it was good to see Patricia. This is a unique experience, isn't it?
Very unique.
Our Sangha seems to be growing.
There's Patricia right here.
Patricia.
Patricia. Susan. Patricia, look up so we know you're seeing us. There you go.
Patricia,
Patricia.
well, we're sending love to Colorado.
Yeah, Patricia, we're all saying hi to you from in Colorado. All right. So is there anything else that anyone wants to say before we close?
I just wanted to say that it's a wonderful idea about the masks. When you first spoke about it online, I was like, well, I can't help with that one because I don't sew. Or, you know, I mean, I can sew little holes or things like that, but certainly not a mask. But then this idea you have is just a wonderful way to get us all involved, and it sounds safe, and it just feels like it's such a practical, important contribution.
We need to do something, right?
Yeah.
We need to marshal our resources and be of service in whatever.
Yeah. I mean, even if you didn't get the HEPA right away, maybe there would be some way to still get started before that or something. But
well, the thing about the HEPA is the best material I think we can use to make masks with, but it may not be available. So
right.
Any filter from a vacuum cleaner, it may not be HEPA, but it may be designed to filter out allergies and other pathogens and whatnot. It may not be as good as a HEPA filter, but it's still good. So
yeah.
Any vacuum cleaner bag that says, you know, it's a filter for allergies or things like that is going to be pretty good. So I think we should think of making any kind of mask we can make with whatever material is available, and to have different patterns so we know how to make them with different materials.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. And thank you for the practice again. It took me so deep and just to some unfinished family of origin work with my mother, and just kind of appeared. It's like, what is she doing here? And, so it was wonderful. I appreciate it. And, you know, just, I mean, it's just great that it took me in such a deep and very full kind of way to add to this practice. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
It's very common for people when they're working with shadow stuff to have family of origin issues with, you know, parents or family members. And when that happens, it's important when you're doing this practice not to visualize that person. You're finding the feeling you have in your body about that person. And then when you visualize that feeling as a demon, it's not literally that person, it's the feeling you have about that person. And that's really important, that you not literalize this in that way, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, that's helpful. It was more like a sense of her came in the demon.
Yeah.
And it was still the demon, but a sense of her came around the feeling I was having as a feeling she had. And then as some work became clear around that.
Yeah, because if you literalize a person, you're splitting them off again from yourself. And it's important to notice that you're carrying that.
Yeah, that's what came to me. So that was wonderful.
It's not about that person anymore. It's about what you're carrying. That you.
Thank you.
Roshi?
Yeah.
It's Jackie. Just an idea about the masks really quickly. I know that we are waiting to see what happens with the board meeting, and I sense that the way the Sangha is, it's very optimistic that it will go through, hopefully. So this idea right now is trying to think of resources that we have individually or people that we know might have. As soon as you were talking, I thought of someone who, right before the virus was getting ready to clear out their house, and they had just an abundance of thread and needles because someone in their family was an avid sewer.
Yeah.
So maybe to begin to start collecting those items like pillowcases and washing them, and maybe seeing if people that we know have supplies that they can even leave outside their front door to be collected, so we can maybe have an inventory as a Sangha to help keep costs down for materials we'll need, maybe even once we know what those materials are. But just to start forward thinking about where we can garner materials without having to spend center money, and give other people an opportunity to participate, even though they're not part of the Sangha. It could be someone like an aunt or a grandparent that has sewing materials that they're not using, and let them know that it's going to go towards making masks.
We have a large, this is not just limited to our members, it's anyone in the community that wants to be involved. But I think it's also important we not get head out over our skis, because the board has not yet approved it. I tend to get ahead of my skis a lot, and there's definitely the urgency, but the board needs to sign off on this, because this is a big project we're undertaking, and it's going to involve using financial resources of the center, and it's going to involve most likely using the center space for something that some people might view as risky. But I think that we could ask, Melanie could teach us how to do sterile techniques, and we could be training everyone how to do this stuff and do it relatively safely.
Yeah, that was just a thought as you were talking about, a grant and keeping the center, healthy financially, that, if the board comes up against a real financial question, that we can go back inside and see how we can cultivate supplies to help keep that burden down.
Money will come if we're being relevant and we're being of service.
That's true, yeah.
Don't need to be worried too much. I think we need to just get to work, and my sense. But again, no final decision till the board makes the decision to do it. It's a big step, and we need to, we can be preparing and, washing materials and gathering all the stuff you need in the meantime, because even if the board doesn't want to do it, which I think is highly unlikely, we could still be encouraging people to make masks in their homes. But I do think that we have more in marshaling resources if we use the center as a center for getting materials together and organizing. It would help support people more to do it in their homes. That's my feeling, but I could be wrong. And again, I'm open to all kinds of feedback from the community and the board about what's the best way to proceed.
You wouldn't need to use sterile technique while you're making them.
You wouldn't?
No, you wouldn't need to. You just make them and then wash them and then put them in a paper bag.
Okay.
Because that's what we do to re-sterilize them, is you just have to wash them in hot water and soap.
Can you wash HEPA things in water and soap? I guess you can.
That I don't know, because I don't know about the filters.
I was thinking we maybe ask everyone to shave their heads so they don't have hair that could get the virus, and then we would all really look like Zen people, And it would be kind of fun. Everyone said, hey, they said, why do you shave your head? Because I'm working over at the Zen Center making masks. Instead of wearing a headpiece like a net. But maybe we don't really have to practice sterile techniques, Melanie?
I don't think so, because really, when you think about it, when you wear the mask, after you wear it, you have to re-sterilize it. So you have to, every time you get exposed, then you have to re-clean it. So if you guys made the masks and then you just clean them prior to distributing them, you'll be fine.
All right. Great. That's one whole less thing we need to worry about. Linda?
If you look at the directions that are online that June sent out, it tells you the procedure to use about washing your hands and how to keep it clean and not using needles and pins.
Yes.
And I don't think you can wash them.
I don't know that. Yeah.
That's all on there. It's explained in the video. It's a clean procedure, not a sterile procedure.
Well, we have more to learn. Yeah, if you're doing the directions for doing the HEPA filters is you don't use needles because you don't want to puncture that material. But if you're using cloth, you can use needles to paste the template onto the cloth. But if you're using the HEPA material, you can't use needles. Anyway, the directions there's 100 different ways to do these things online, and we'll slowly research and try to find the best ways of doing things and help people learn how to do it. And we'll do the best we can. Blair?
Also, there are some of us who haven't used a sewing machine in about 40 years. So maybe we could do a video or set of instructions to just to bring us a little more up to speed on a modern sewing machine. Do you have the sewing machines or a sewing machine?
We have one. We might consider I was thinking originally we might have sewing machines in the basement, and then it occurred to me that why would if people have sewing machines at home, there's no reason to bring them here to the center. The basement could be the place where we put things together, but we could have a sewing circle. June is a master sewer, as you've seen her altar cloths, and she's time, and I'm sure Lori and others know how to sew too. So we could have a sewing circle where everyone's learning how to use their respective sewing machines that they haven't used for 40 years. Take them out of the closet and dust them off, and let's go to work.
Yeah, the video is pretty clear. So how to make cloth ones, really easy, like in 5 minutes, just about if you have everything cut up.
Yeah.
So it's pretty simple.
There are ways to make these that don't require any sewing, and there's all kinds of ways. So we can research this and learn more about it, and support people to make whatever mask you're able to make. The other thing that I found useful when I heard Dr. Fosti speak on Friday, up until this point, we were really, and I think we still need to be mindful about cleaning surfaces. But the thing that he said on Friday that really got my attention was he said that the virus doesn't last very long if it doesn't have a host. So yes, it can attach to clothing and hair and surfaces, but it won't be there for more than a day or two at the most, and maybe just a few hours. And once it's outside like that, it degrades fairly rapidly. So its ability to transmit from a surface may not be as bad as we initially thought, and that the primary means of transmission is airborne. And I think that, and when this began, we didn't know anything about how this thing was spread. But if that's the case, then we still need to be mindful about cleaning things, but we don't need to be quite so. I mean, I've been worried about touching mail. I take the mail in and then I wash my hands. Anything that someone could have touched, I'm mindful of. And I just think that we may not need to be quite so paranoid about cleaning every surface all the time if in fact it's primarily airborne. But then what he's saying makes so much sense. There's three things if everyone did. We quarantine ourselves in our respective homes. We practice social distancing so it can't spread. If you're 6 feet away from someone, unless they sneeze really big, generally they're speaking to you. It's only the air particles can only go out about 2 feet and then drop. So if we practice quarantining and social distancing and we wear masks, we can flatten this curve. And I think I don't know why. Anyway, I don't want to talk about politics. I'll just get pissed off. I don't know why we're not doing it at the national level.
But then you can do your demon practice about it, Roshi.
Yeah, that's why teaching it to you because I need it so badly. My demons are really big.
If you really want to try to get some information,
Let me tell you.
there's also really good information at the World Health Organization, and every day online they do an updated report.
The World Health Organization?
World Health Organization. The director is the leading, he's one of the leading physicians for communicable diseases, and every day online, if you check their daily update, they will give breakdowns. They'll talk about what's happening, what innovations are happening, what things are going on, and we have found that and also some of the BBC news is helpful because there isn't a political climate in that news stream in any way, so it is helpful. But World Health Organization has given us a sense of, at least the older generation in our family is starting to look at that as, another option to feel, very up on what's going on. So
take the politics out.
And take the politics out. World Health is really great.
That's very useful to take the politics out of it. There's the other piece that seems to be emerging is the people that know about pandemics say these things will, the outbreak can occur anywhere. And then it cycles around. So right now the outbreak is in New York City, and there's enormous amount of suffering going on there, and the hospitals are overloaded. And that will eventually die down, but then it could pop up in another probably urban center where there's high density. It could pop up in Chicago. It's happening in New Orleans. And these things will, if it cycles like that, it gives us a chance to support the particular state where the outbreak is occurring. And then once it dies down in that state, they can help others. So that's a little silver lining, and it's not happening all at once everywhere. It tends to move around. Kelly.
Hi. I just wanted to speak quickly. It's a little bit of a stab in the dark, but I'm part of a community effort in asking if anyone has 3D printers. Here's my 3D printer, and I'm making with a group of like 25 people or so these shields that go on like this.
Yeah.
So I'm making this visor piece, and then the plastic shield goes down, hangs from it, and we've been distributing them to all the local hospitals and doctors and anyone who calls. So we have a group online that has been emailing each other. So if anyone knows of anyone who happens to have a 3D printer, we were fortunate enough, my son was interested in this and talked us into getting one a year or two ago. So
Yeah.
we're a group of maybe like 20 something now, 25, 26, but we've distributed over 500 shields for medical professionals. And if there's anyone else out there who wants to tinker with their 3D printer and put it to good use, I can direct them as well.
I contacted that guy and asked him about the 3D printers. How easy is it to learn to use them? And I don't know. They're also somewhat expensive to purchase, aren't they?
Yeah, it was over $100. It was about $150. Ours, like we got a.
That's all?
Like 150 is the start. We got kind of a child grade, like just a starter for our son, and he saved his money to buy it. And that was about the purchase price for this one. I know they can get pretty detailed and exorbitant depending on what you're working on, like what you're using it for. But for the simple visor, this seemed to be, we got lucky, it works. I think there's some modifying of, you get a computer, like a computer file, and then we had to do some editing of that to work on my computer, to work on my printer, which they can all be a little different. But I had a family member that was able to help us with that piece, and now I just click print and take it off, and click print and take it off, and it's been running nonstop for over a week, almost 2 weeks now.
How many have you been able, how long does it take you to make one?
One of these takes an hour and a half, the visor part. We then take it to Robert Parks, who is like organizing it. he puts the shield on an elastic, and then he puts them in a bleach solution to clean them, and then, you know, passes them on to the ICU units or ERs or doctor's offices where they go. Because like you did mention, we are running low on things like raw materials like elastic. We came up with another visor style now that could stay on your head without elastic, and we might have to transition to that. Like, I was imagining I would do this for a week and things would catch up, but I feel like we just may be doing this for the long haul now.
Yeah, someone told me, it might have been Susan, that they have a friend that is connected to a printer downtown that has really large these kind of printers, and they are gearing up for printing these kinds of frames, because that can really help having that shield over a mask. And I've read that healthcare providers feel it feel safer.
Yeah.
Extra level.
Mm-hmm.
So wonderful. Yeah, I heard that there's an article in the Wednesday Journal about all you folks organizing to do that. That's great.
So if anyone knows anyone, we'll be happy to fold them in.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I'm still getting used to Zoom, and I see a whole lot of chat messages here that I didn't look at. Let me just see if there's something I need to address. Okay. So Linda, did you have something you wanted to say?
No, just that I've seen printers online that cost anywhere from $100 to $500. Maybe we should, well, buying one is easy. We need to connect up with somebody on how to make it, how to actually do this.
Yeah, I don't want to jump into that yet. It feels to me like a level of technical learning that I'm not sure I want to deal with right now. And it may not be the best use of our resources, since other people know how to use them. But it would be like me trying to learn how to sew on a sewing machine. It's probably not going to be very helpful. I have real fat fingers, and I just would sew my thumb to the material. It wouldn't be helpful. So, but yeah, it's a possibility. We could remain open to the possibility of having a couple printers running all the time down in the basement making those things, but we'd have to have some technical, someone like Michael Bruner might be able to help us set it up. If they only cost $150, I looked at them online, and it looked like the good ones were, the ones that I was looking at were several $1,000s, and that seemed like a pretty hefty investment.
Yeah, that's too much.
But if in fact it's 150, then one of these things works, we might consider it. I think I don't know. It doesn't feel to me like the best use of our resources right now. I think we could do other things that would be useful.
Roshi?
Yeah.
Something about Zoom real quick that might be helpful for your end, since you're hosting these talks, is if anybody presses the participant button, if you look at that, everyone has a participants thing at the bottom.
Yeah.
If they click it, the names of all the participants will come up.
Right.
And at the bottom right, it says raise hand. And if they click that, if you look at my screen, the picture of myself and Patrick, you should see a little blue hand.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not sure if you can see it on the participant list, but it might help when you're looking.
Yeah.
It might help for people to raise their hand, and you wouldn't have to be having people or searching. It would be a little icon that comes up.
See it, a little blue hand.
And then you could call on people in order, because if you needed to, but it just might help the process on your end.
Okay. All right. I don't see any blue hands, so maybe it's time to finish and go have lunch. So thank you everyone for participating, and please support each other and be kind, and think of when you go to the market to buy your groceries, think of those poor people behind the counter. They're the first responders now. They're on the front lines, and they have to do it because they got to go to work. They have, so some people, there is a lot of inequity showing up in this whole crisis that are being magnified, which is sad, but it's just the way our culture is. So be well, keep your sitting practice strong, and take good care of yourselves and your families. Okay, bye.
Bye-bye, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.